Let's talk about Fernando Mendoza and the Las Vegas Raiders. So far, we've gotten a chance to see him play in 2 preseason games. He did not get the start in week 1 against the Arizona Cardinals. They went with Kirk Cousins instead. But in week 2, he did get the start against the Houston Texans. And I want to say this early on in this video. Everything that you've seen so far in the preseason, take it with a grain of salt. Unfortunately, a lot of these players, especially if they're playing deep in the second half, it's a great chance they're not going to make the final roster. Some players will, but there are going to be some depth pieces here. But for a lot of these players, they're not going to make the roster. They may be on the practice squad, and that's it. So a lot of the defensive looks that Kirk Cousins is seeing right now, and the same with Fernando Mendoza, they're not going to see those looks in the regular season. The preseason at this point is basically just a dress rehearsal. Let's go out there, knock off the rust with our top tier players. If they need to go out there and play, let's give them a drive or two, and that's it. A lot of head coaches work with their defensive coordinators. Let's get in, let's get out. You don't want to go out there and just give up big play after big play, because that'll be a bad look. You want to go out there and still try. But at the same time here, let's go in, let's run the base defense, let's go in healthy, let's get out healthy. We'll see you week 1. The days of seeing starting quarterbacks play for an entire half, those days are done. With Justin Herbert only played 1 drive today against the 49ers. The same with Brock Purdy against the Los Angeles Chargers. You're not going to see those top tier players go out there and start for an entire half. Those days are long gone. But when it comes down to Fernando Mendoza, with all that being said, he's played fine so far against those backup players, because he's not working with the first team either. He's working with a lot of backups here. Against the backups of the Arizona Cardinals, he performed very well. He was 10 of 16, had 97 passing yards, 1 passing touchdown. He did that on 4 drives with 0 interceptions. He didn't take any bad sacks in this game. He didn't hold on to the football for a very long time. He did not have happy feet inside the pocket. He stuck to what Clint Kubiak wanted him to do. Work from under center, work off of play action, get the football out quick. Let's get in, let's get out. That's what you want to see from your young quarterback. Because coming out of college, Fernando Mendoza did not play that much under center. And Clint Kubiak loves to have his quarterback under center, whether it's Kirk Cousins or Sam Darnold last year when he was the offensive coordinator with the Seattle Seahawks. Fernando Mendoza only played 5 snaps from under center for his entire college career. Not just at Indiana. This is going back to Cal here. So this is a brand new system for Fernando Mendoza. He's been a pistol-heavy quarterback, shotgun-heavy guy, 5 wide, working off of RPO here. And Clint Kubiak can work around that, but it's going to sacrifice a lot of his play calling here and a lot of his playbook if he wants to start Fernando Mendoza week 1. But against the Arizona Cardinals in week 1, in the preseason, I have no complaints. He didn't have the starting offensive line. He didn't have the starting wide receivers. It was a very good debut for him. But in week 2 against the Houston Texans, you got to see some of those bad moments from Fernando Mendoza. And this is a good thing. This is not a video to say that Fernando Mendoza will not be the franchise quarterback with the Raiders, because I do believe long term, he's going to be a very good player in this league. But he got rattled early in this game against the Texans. They did not start Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter. They did have Jadeveon Clowney out there, who's a veteran player. Had a couple of starters. But they didn't have their top-tier defense. They were not going out there with exotic looks on the back end. And he was confused a lot early on. He finished the day 8 of 15, 86 passing yards, 0 passing touchdowns, and he had a terrible pick 6. He was late on the read, and it was right behind the running back. You want to see moments like that in the preseason so Fernando Mendoza can learn from that. It's okay that he's going out there and making mistakes in the preseason. This doesn't mean that he's going to be a bad player long term. You want to see him bounce back from this, and that is what he did. After he threw that interception, he had 6 straight completions. That's fine. He didn't get to work with Tyler Linderbaum and Colton Miller and Nash Genti in the backfield, and the same with Brock Bowers on the outside. He didn't get to work with those guys. He's working with the 2nd and 3rd string players. And the way that he was able to navigate from that pick 6 was fine in my opinion. He bounced back very well. But the Las Vegas Raiders, they shouldn't rush this. They should not start him week 1. And if it's up to me, I wouldn't start him for his entire rookie season. We have seen so many quarterbacks over the last 5 years. You start them immediately. They're not ready to go. You can mess up their development. Caleb Williams statistically had a very good rookie season. But he's placed in a bad situation. Terrible head coach. Terrible offensive line. They could have easily messed up his development. Cam Ward last year. Terrible situation. Horrible offensive line. Horrible head coach. Now, this situation is a bit different because the Las Vegas Raiders, they went all out this offseason trying to fix the trenches defensively and the same on the offensive end. You bring in one of the best centers in the game. To me, the best center in the NFL in Tyler Linderbaum. But your offensive line still has a long ways to go here with a first-year head coach and Clint Kubiak. You don't want to rush this thing here. The Las Vegas Raiders, they're not meant to go out there and to contend right now. This is not a situation you put in Fernando Mendoza. He can start immediately. We could be Super Bowl contenders. You're still in one of the toughest divisions in this league. Patrick Mahomes is still with Kansas City with Andy Reid. They've won multiple Super Bowls over the last couple of years. The DNA is still there with that organization. The Los Angeles Chargers have been a very good team in the regular season with Justin Herbert and Coach Harbaugh. The Denver Broncos, the #1 seed last year, top tier defense. They have Sean Payton, who has won the Super Bowl as a head coach, working with Bo Nix, who's an ascending quarterback in this league. All of those teams are more equipped to be contenders in the AFC right now. The Raiders, they are still a rebuilding team. This is a team, they've been switching from so many different head coaches over the last couple of years that you have hurt your development with your players because every coaching staff thinks differently. So a lot of players here, they haven't gotten the necessary snaps. They don't know how to go out there and to win. You had Josh McDaniels as your head coach. That was a failure. He wanted to coach one way. Then you fire him. The interim head coach is Antonio Pierce. Then he became the full-time head coach. That didn't work out. Then you bring in Pete Carroll last year with Chip Kelly. So the base players here on this roster have been put through coaching hell, and yet they have to learn from yet another head coach and Clint Kubiak. So a lot of these players, they're still learning how to win. So why put Fernando Mendoza in that fire right now? Let him sit behind Kirk Cousins. You signed him for a reason. And the Kirk Cousins contract, it's kind of crazy when you look at the base numbers here because it's 5 years, $172 million. But that doesn't explain the full story. Basically, this is a 1-year deal, $20 million, because they have a club option for 2 years that's worth up to $80 million. They can void out this contract in 2029 and 2030. And keep this in mind, the Atlanta Falcons are still paying Kirk Cousins for the 2026 regular season. He still had a year left on his contract. And with Kirk Cousins, he's not a bad starting quarterback in this league. Is he a top 15, top 20 quarterback? I won't go that far. He's definitely not the same Kirk Cousins before he tore his Achilles. That's fine. You're not going to get that Minnesota Vikings Kirk Cousins back, especially with the current roster that you have. But you get someone that knows the offensive system with Clint Kubiak. Clint Kubiak was the offensive coordinator with the Minnesota Vikings, while Kirk Cousins was the starting quarterback there. Now, he did not call offensive plays, but he still helped bring those plays together. He still helped out Kevin O'Connell, who was still the head coach in Minnesota. This is the right play here. You go with Kirk Cousins, and you see if this offensive line is really going to go into the right direction with Colton Miller at the left tackle position. And I think that Colton Miller is one of the better left tackles in this league when he's fully healthy. Tyler Linderbaum, phenomenal center. Jackson Powers-Johnson is a very good interior lineman if you give him the opportunity to go out there and play every single week. Last year with Pete Carroll and his son, who was the offensive line coach, they kept pulling him out of the lineup. They'll start him, then they'll bench him. They'll start him, then they'll bench him. He's a very good interior lineman. He helped take their run game to the next level last year before he got injured. Then you have DJ Glaze at the right tackle position. He's serviceable. So you have some talent on this offensive line. But they have to be dominant if you want to go out there and run plays from under center. You have Ashton Genty in the backfield. He should be the main engine to this offense. And you do all of this with a veteran quarterback and Kirk Cousins. And another reason why I believe that Fernando Mendoza will not be the starting quarterback and he should not be the starting quarterback for week 1. Listen to what Tom Brady had to say about the situation with young quarterbacks in today's game.
Learn how to drop back pass, to read defenses, to read coverages, to be coached, to deal with winning games, to deal playing in Columbus, Ohio in front of 110,000 people. Right. I had to learn from being 7th quarterback on the depth chart to moving up to 3rd to ultimately being a starter. I had to learn all those things in college. That was development. Then I went to New England and I was developed by Coach Belichick and the offensive staff there. I didn't start my first year. I think it's just a tragedy that we're forcing these rookies to play early. But the reality is the only reason why they are is because we dumbed the game down, which has allowed them to play. It used to be thought of at a higher level. We used to spend hours and hours in the offseason and training camp trying to be a little bit better than next year. But I think what happens is it discourages the coaches from going to deep levels because they realize the players don't have the opportunity to go to a deep level, so they're just going to teach them where they're at.
Let's take a break from today's action and let's talk about today's sponsor, Prize Picks, America's #1 sports pick app. It is super easy and efficient to use. With the football preseason being here and the football regular season being right around the corner, Prize Picks is the perfect place to run your game plan. And all you have to do is pick more or less on your favorite player stats like passing yards, passing touchdowns, rushing yards, and rushing touchdowns. It is that simple. So you can follow your favorite players and your favorite team from week to week. But it's more than just the week-to-week picks here. You can also go in with total season picks. For example, with my all-rookie lineup, I have King Sadiq with the New York Jets, more than 449 receiving yards on the season. Jordan Tyson with the New Orleans Saints, more than 4 receiving touchdowns on the season. And Caleb Downs with the Dallas Cowboys, more than 1 interception in the regular season. You download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $150 instantly and lineups if you win your first $5 lineup. Once again, you download the app today. Use code CLNS to instantly get $150 back in lineups if you win your first $5 lineup. I want to thank Prize Picks for sponsoring this video. Let's get back to the action. So to me, with Fernando Mendoza, just go out there, run the scout team, be the backup quarterback with the Las Vegas Raiders for the next year or two. More than likely, it'll just be for 1 season. You give him this entire year to sit back behind Kirk Cousins. He can learn from Kirk Cousins' mistakes. He can work with the quarterback's coach. He can work with Clint Kubiak, and you let him get comfortable running an NFL offensive system because right now, he's not. You're putting so much pressure on these young quarterbacks to come in and immediately change their game plan. It's hard to do that. Because the same play that you saw in college, 9 times out of 10, it's not going to work the same way in this league. You may have some young quarterbacks in year 1, they take off like CJ and the same with Jaden Daniels. But look at CJ right now. It is just safer to go out there and let that young quarterback sit behind that veteran. And another reason why a lot of owners, they don't like this is because they're paying that rookie quarterback so much. They have to exercise that 5th-year option sooner than later. But sitting him down for a year or two, it definitely won't hurt. Look at Aaron Rodgers with Brett Favre. Came in, one of the best quarterback talents we've seen. He benefited from sitting behind Brett Favre, even though Brett Favre wasn't the biggest fan of Aaron Rodgers. Jordan Love is a top quarterback in this league. Got the work behind Aaron Rodgers. They set him down for a couple years. Patrick Mahomes in this division got to sit down behind Alex Smith for basically his entire rookie year. Only started 1 game. To me, still the best quarterback in the league. So while you're going out there and you're developing those young wide receivers like Jack Betch, and the same with Malik Benson if something's there with him as a rotational player, you develop those young guys here. Fernando Mendoza has extra help because those guys have more reps underneath their belt here. And Jack Betch can be a very good wide receiver with this team. I don't know if he could be a number 1 wide receiver, but he can easily be a solid number 2. And that's what they're missing right now, a bona fide outside wide receiver. Trey Tucker, very good deep threat, the same with Jalen Naylor. Essentially, they're the same player. Jalen Naylor has a lot of juice to his game. That's why they went out this offseason. They signed him for 3 years, $35 million. And you look at it again. There's continuity here with Clint Kubiak. Jalen Naylor was a wide receiver in Minnesota while Clint Kubiak was there. You do have Brock Bowers, who is one of the best receiving tight ends in football when he's fully healthy. Played majority of last season in a knee brace, and yet he was still balling out with Geno Smith and the terrible offense with Chip Kelly. And you have Michael Mayer. That's a very good 2 tight end set. You lean into that. And you let these young players develop. And this defense, they should be better also with a brand new defensive coordinator and brand new defenders like Quay Walker, the same with Kwity Paye and Nakobe Dean. You re-sign Malcolm Kuntz. The Las Vegas Raiders, they have more talent this season than they had last year, but it comes down to coaching. But you cannot start Fernando Mendoza right now. I think that that'll be a huge mistake. And pulling him out of that game against the Houston Texans, I don't agree with that. I know that they went with Aiden O'Connell. He came in. He helped them win the football game. That's great. You know what Aiden O'Connell is at this stage of his career. And unfortunately, he got screwed over by those terrible coaches over the last 3 years. Aiden O'Connell, solid backup in this league. You let Fernando Mendoza go out there and you let him close out that game. If it's me, I'm playing him for the entire game. Unless he's getting smoked because of how bad the offensive line is. But you let him go out there, you let him play an entire preseason game from quarter 1 to quarter 4. Let him figure all that out. And you let him build those reps from under center. You let him get more comfortable, even if it's against third and fourth string players. That's fine. He knows how the NFL works. That can go a long ways in his career. But I don't care if the Las Vegas Raiders are 1-5 by week 6. You stick with Kirk Cousins and you let him figure things out because he's that veteran player. And if you're 1-5 at that point in time, you have bigger problems than just the quarterback position. And I know with Kirk Cousins, the arm isn't the strongest. He's a scarecrow inside the pocket. I get all of that. But there's still value here with Kirk Cousins being in your locker room as a locker room leader and being a decent starter. Fernando Mendoza coming out of college, it just wasn't the fact that he rarely played under center. He had a nasty habit staring down the primary read, holding on to the football for a very long time, being inaccurate against pressure. Did a very good job against the blitz here. But that doesn't mean that all that's going to translate over to this league early on. We have commentators, they crush Caleb Williams. He holds onto the football for a very long time. They're saying the same thing here with Shedeur Sanders. You let those young players work in scout team. You let them work in practice against the second and third string defenses, and you let them go out there, get rid of the football quicker. You let them learn from their mistakes, and you play them in the preseason to figure all that out. Don't just throw them into the fire. And I don't think that the Raiders are going to be a playoff team anyway. So the last 3 games of the regular season, you may start Fernando Mendoza. It benefits both sides here. With Kirk Cousins, he gets a chance to still be a starting quarterback in this league. And Fernando Mendoza, he gets to develop. But the Las Vegas Raiders, you have to get this right. You cannot rush this process. Your last good quarterback was Derek Carr. It's been a revolving door at this position for a very long time. You can't screw this up. And with Fernando Mendoza, no off-the-field problems. He loves to study the game. He's the same guy that was saying, I'm not going to party. I'm going to go back home, watch film. That's what you want to hear out of your potential franchise quarterback. I think long-term, he is going to be a very good starter in this league. And next year in the first round, you have a top pick. Maybe you can end up with Jeremiah Smith out of Ohio State. Now you're building something here with the Raiders. Offensive head coach and Clint Kubiak, potential star, and Fernando Mendoza. But let me know in the comment section below how you feel about Fernando Mendoza and should he be the starting quarterback for week 1. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button. If you like the video, hit the like button. Most importantly, I want each and every last one of you guys to stay safe, stay positive. Thanks for the video, guys. God